We're live.
Now we're live.
The Cinematary concert film.
Yeah.
We're doing it live.
Fuck it. We're doing it live. All right. We'll go Reid and then Andrew for the order.
Okay.
Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. And welcome to episode 422 of Cinematary. I'm your host, Zach Dennis, and I'm here with
Reid Ramsey
and Andrew Swafford.
In today's episode, we're going to be talking about some movies that we saw at TIFF 2022, part 1.
That's right.
And in part 2, we're going to be continuing our concert movie series with 1984's Stop Making Sense.
That's right. Such a great episode. So
good
much
episode.
Good content.
We're not going to dilly-dally. We're just going to go ahead and jump because we got a bunch of TIFF movies to get to. We're going to kick off with one. I think, Andrew, this was our... Well, like, so we can go... We'll start with the new release that people can actually see, actually. This is our first movie that we saw and the one that people can actually see.
Yeah, let's do that.
Which is Moonage Daydream. It is the Brett Morgan directed documentary about David Bowie. Like I said, it played at TIFF, but it is in theaters now, so you can check it out. And I don't. We also have the review from TIFF from Andrew and I posted on Cinematary.com. So
it's up.
So if you would like to read that, but if you read that, I think you can see that 2 thumbs up from the two of us because Moonage Daydream is a hell of a time.
It is one of the best movies you saw at the festival, I think. And I mean, I don't know. Did you see the trailer for this before you watched the movie?
I think once in like a theater.
So at Central Cinema, they play it all the time. I'm very glad that they're showing it like round the clock right now. But when I saw the trailer, I was hoping that it would be kind of like a non-narrative avant-garde film, like very unconventional documentary, just kind of like making this musical or this like visual equivalent of like David Bowie's whole vibe in a movie. But I didn't think they would actually be brave enough to make a movie that like, I don't know if I want to say it's inaccessible, because I think that it is like playing wide. It's like playing in IMAX screens. People are going to like it if they like David Bowie. But like it is, nothing about this movie is on paper what is like people are looking for in a Hollywood blockbuster about David Bowie, right? I mean, it's not a blockbuster, but you know what I mean?
I described it to people who asked that it's going to play well for you if you either really, like David Bowie and are into him, or are very interested in him. If you're going in going, I'm not totally sure about David Bowie, but I'm going to give him a try. I don't feel like this is the movie for you.
For sure. But if you just like the vibe of David Bowie, which I do, I don't really listen to his music all that much, but I really respect the vibe from afar. This movie is like that vibe bottled into like this avant-garde film that is cobbling together all these different like unseen concert footage and like really interesting interview clips to like create this really non-linear, overwhelming sensory experience that like I've just not seen another music documentary like this. Like it is not a concert film. It's not like a talking head, no pun intended, like documentary. It is something that is more akin to like actual music. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of, it weaves his music, a lot of like the Ziggy Stardust album and things like that into it, but it also is whenever he's talking, it's interview clips or behind the scene clips. It's not like it's not like a single narrative. There's a couple like portions where he's talking about one specific subject, like he's talking about the Ziggy Stardust character, or he's talking about his family, or he's talking about, things like that. But it's not like there's not like part one, act 1, act 2, act 3. It's more just a stream of consciousness for 2 hours.
Right. You're never dropped into a scene of him having an interview for a long time. The interview audio is like laid over the movie as this like disembodied voice for a lot of it. And it's like you're kind of hearing David Bowie's like this imagined version of David Bowie's like inner monologue throughout his life. Really, really interesting and like just thrilling and exciting to watch too. Like just super good filmmaking.
Yeah, the first like 10, 15 minutes is just like this full-on montage thing that is on like you watch the first 15 minutes and you're like, this is the best movie ever.
Yeah, there was a moment where I was like, this is definitely the best movie I'm seeing at the festival. It was the first movie we saw at the festival.
Yeah, like the first 15 minutes are incredible because it's just like this just music montage clips all like married together in this like really kinetic way, and you're just like, this is the greatest thing of all time. But yeah, no, I mean, if it's in, it's playing wide, if you can see it on IMAX, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, I kind of want to go see it again on IMAX if I can.
Yeah, but no, high recommend on Moonage Daydream. But I mean, I think it's a lot of fun. And then ironically enough, our next movie is the second movie that we watched, and that is the latest from Park Chan-wook. For those who are familiar with Old Boy, we've talked extensively on this podcast about The Handmaiden. Decision to Leave is his newest movie. It's a police procedural. It's one of my it's my favorite type of police procedural where the cops are dummies. Just dummy guys, and you're like, yeah, those are fun.
Yeah.
And pretty much the gist of it is this detective is investigating this death of this man. They initially think it's a suicide, but then they bring in his wife for questioning, and she's a little suspicious, but also he falls in love with her. And so then it's just kind of this psychosexual relationship between the two of them as he's investigating this murder and is also trying to like just be in love with this woman. I would have to kind of look at like Park Chan-wook's career. I don't think it's like a career highlight, maybe. It's not. I don't like it as much as like The Handmaiden or something like that.
I don't know if he will ever top The Handmaiden.
No, but this one is this one was a reminder of like why he's such a fun fucking filmmaker, because his movies are just so fun. Like it's like this one, the camera work. It's the camera is constantly like creating jokes. The editing is creating jokes. Like you just have these two cops being the partner for the detective is just a like grade A dummy, and he's so entertaining.
I was not expecting this movie to be as funny as it is.
Super funny movie.
Yeah.
But no, like I said, I mean, I don't think it's one of his best movies ever, but it's really, really good, and it's really, really fun. And the main actors, the detective and the woman who he falls in love with, both fantastic. Let me look up her name. She's I know her as the woman who falls in love with Chris Hemsworth in Black Hat, which is Black Hat fans. That's enough. Tang Wei. Tang Wei, and she's super good. Like she's fantastic. But Andrew, what did you think of Decision to Leave?
Oh, I liked it a lot. As you said, it's just super funny. It's super fun. I did go in with really high expectations because of The Handmaiden and because it's been such a long time since he's made The Handmaiden. And that felt like a tonal shift or like a shift in his style to me from what I had seen before. And I was ready to see like the next period of like mature Park Chan-wook, but it is not exactly that. It is a little trashy. It is a little airport novel-y, but like in a really fun way. Like he takes that material and makes you completely invested in it, even though like it is like kind of ridden with cliches and tropes and stuff like that. But it is still like it's surprising. Like he's still very good at creating these twists. The way that it twists is different than The Handmaiden. It's like you're not constantly having the rug pulled out from under you. You kind of see where the thing is going, but it definitely unfolds like a number of times that you're not necessarily expecting. It's very hard to explain how the mystery works without talking about the mystery. But I really like it. It's fun.
It reminds me a lot, and I think this is kind of he does this a lot. It reminds me a lot of like a Hitchcock movie where it is this it's like it's a B or C like you describe airport novel plot. Like it's really not that, the plot itself is really not that intuitive, but the way he directs it is so goddamn fun and like so like brimming with just filmmaking skill that like it makes this plot, the plot that's just kind of whatever, into like, because it's more about just like the tension between these lead characters. It's more about like the detective and just like the weird stuff he's getting into. Like he like is he like has insomnia and is just like constantly up like watching people. It's just like a strange little fun pulpy movie that reminds me of like Park Chan-wook's a fucking awesome filmmaker.
It's also really nice to look at too. Like these settings that they create and the costumes and everything just comes together super well.
Yeah. But I believe I forgot I saw was Movie distributing it. I forgot some.
They were attached to it in like the studio bumpers, but surely they didn't.
Yeah,
they're not distributing it.
Really, it's something bigger than that, like theatrical, right?
I feel like A24 Neon has to get this movie.
It seems like a Neon movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would assume it'll probably come out later this year or early next year.
Yeah.
Super fun though. Great one. This one is one that speaking of mystery, it's coming out later this year. And we're sworn to not spoil anything, or I think like Netflix is gonna come and like slice our heads off. So,
yeah.
Planned out.
What's that?
Was the segue planned out?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The knives are gonna be out for us if we reveal too many details about this movie.
So we caught Andrew and I caught the sequel to Knives Out, which is called Glass Onion.
Great title, I think.
A Knives Out mystery. Well, if you cut out Glass Onion itself is great, but if you cut out a Knives Out mystery,
we're pretending a Knives Out mystery is not part of the title.
Yeah. But Glass Onion, I won't because we're not supposed to spoil anything. We're supposed to. It's just something about the sanctity of movies. But the plot is the only returning character is Daniel Craig's Benoit Blanc,
right.
the detective. But this one it follows Edward Norton, who is like this kind of tech billionaire.
He's Elon Musk
figure who invites a number of his friends who are played by Janelle Monáe. Joe Rogan. Man,
Dave Bautista plays Joe Rogan.
Yeah, Dave Bautista, Catherine Hahn, Kate Hudson, all to this island to like to do a murder mystery, but also like kind of have this like friends weekend thing. It was I really enjoyed Knives Out. I thought just a really fun popcorn movie. Just a great. I'm kind of pissed that Netflix is distributing this because it's honestly a movie that needs to be seen like in a movie theater with people around.
This should play wide, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that they do give it a run.
Have they done that? Have Netflix put any of their movies out in theaters?
Not really.
I don't think they have.
They really should do it with this though, because that's why Knives Out was so popular, because people would go see it in theaters.
And it's coming out on Christmas too. Like people were gonna want to go with their families to see it.
Exactly. So yeah, I'll have to watch it again. I don't know if I like this one more or the first one more. I
definitely like this one more.
Okay. But this one for me, it took me a little while. It takes a while to get set up, and then it gets to the point where it turns, and when it turns, it's great.
I mean, I liked the setup too. I thought that all those scenes were like funny and interesting and unique. But yeah, like I liked Knives Out, the first one, enough, and then saw it again and kind of realized that it was, even better than I'd given credit for back then. And this, like, I went in with kind of low expectations because it's just kind of a sequel to a popular movie and Netflix has it. And, they might be wringing dry this thing that doesn't have legs. But no, I actually would like more Knives Out movies. I would like this to be a franchise that goes for a long time. Rian Johnson is like a filmmaker. He knows what he is doing. He's a really funny scriptwriter too. And like, can twist a mystery. I like this mystery in this movie is like 4 mysteries in like a Russian nesting doll structure, and like they are all equally like surprising and just like add fresh layers to the movie. And like it's shot really well too. Like the cast is like crazy big and everybody's great. Janelle Monáe is awesome, and I get the feeling that they're kind of setting her up to be the protagonist of the next one. I hope that's not too much of a spoiler for Netflix, but I hope that is true. I would love to see Janelle Monáe lead a Knives Out mystery.
She's very like loose in this movie. You know, I feel like a lot of the other roles that she's done, you know, whether it's always kind of like Hidden Figures or something where it's like Janelle Monáe is in this movie, and
it's
this
like
one,
a big prestige thing.
yeah. And this one, it's just like it's a very loose character. Like you can tell she's just kind of like Ryan Johnson has written a really fun character, and she's able to like do stuff with it.
But I think he also is aware of that like star persona that she already has developed, because the movie kind of starts that way. Like I was immediately a little underwhelmed by how much Janelle we were getting, because she was kind of the steely, distant character. But like there are twists and turns where there's more to her than that, right? Yeah, just super fun, super good. I feel like we're maybe a broken record on just like how good and fun and enjoyable everything is so far, but like we saw a great crop of movies. We really did.
There's just no bad movies. I don't know what to tell you. Real quickly before we finally let Reid speak, I think all three of us saw Wendell and Wild, and we would have talked about it here, but we're going to actually talk about it next month when it comes out for our Horror for Kids series. But before we move on to another movie, you know, thumbs up, thumbs down. You know, we'll do the old Ebert and Siskel, like thumbs up or thumbs down. I mean, what did you all feel about Wendell and Wild? I'm 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, I was two big thumbs up as well. I thought it was so fun, very endearing, heartwarming. That's all I'll give it.
I think I am tragically a thumbs down on Wendell and Wild. I really wish we could talk about it now, but I also think it would be better to talk about it when it comes out, if people have seen it. And I would like to watch it again, because one of the reasons I struggled with it, because it's a very complicated movie. I was not expecting it to be quite as complicated as it is. And my first blush is that that's a detriment, but I might end up enjoying it after I kind of know what it's doing. I don't know.
And for those who are unaware, Wendell and Wild, it's the new stop motion animated film from Henry Selick, who's known for Coraline and Nightmare Before Christmas, and it stars Key and Peele. And so,
yes,
that's
we did an episode on Coraline where me and Zach talked about that movie a lot. So
we're gonna talk
big
about
movie.
We'll talk about Wendell and Wild next month extensively, but we're gonna let Reid talk. So, Reid, tell us about how you got sick.
Oh, okay, Sick. Sick. This is the new horror movie from Kevin Williamson, or writer Kevin Williamson, as well as co-screenwriter. Let me make sure I get the name correct. Caitlin Crabb, and it's directed by John Hyams of Universal Soldier and Alone acclaim. And Kevin Williamson, if you're not familiar, is the screenwriter from Scream. And I think I know what you did last summer. Now I'm questioning.
Huh?
Yeah.
Really?
No, did last summer. Yeah, he did both those.
Are those movies good?
Personally, I love both of them.
Okay. I need to see them.
The series I Know What You Did Last Summer?
Yes.
The first one's really great. The second one was fine, and I haven't watched the third one.
Okay, it's going on the October rotation.
It's definitely worth it, especially if you just like generally like slashers. You'll like it.
Yeah.
Because it's like a kind of a breezy movie. But Sick is their new slasher directed by John Hyams, like I said. And the premise is basically we are transported back to March 2020 at the start of the pandemic, and it is just like all COVID. You could tell they wrote this thing like in March and April, and this is just layered with COVID jokes that at least the screening I was at were eating up, and they were really annoying me.
Oh.
The crowd, I mean, we literally get at least 2, maybe 3 jokes of characters wiping down their groceries after bringing them inside. It happens multiple times, and the audience.
But was that even a joke in March? Like, would they be doing that sincerely?
Well, I think people were doing that at the start of the pandemic. Maybe not like very beginning, but yeah, it wasn't a joke. But people were cracking up in the theater, and I was just like, this is annoying. Like, maybe in like a few years, if you want to include something like that as like a sign of what happened, sure. But like the way it was played in the movie is super jokey, and it's just not like there's just a lot of things you're supposed to recognize of like, oh yeah, I also went through that during COVID, so therefore it's funny in this slasher comedy.
See, Host,
the one
like the Zoom call unfriended COVID movie.
I missed that one.
Okay, I'm curious like how this compares to that because that was like made and finished in like the early days of COVID, but they don't really make light of it.
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah,
this one, I mean, even ultimately, this movie may be kind of making light of COVID. Like the whole plot is entrenched in like disease. Like it's called sick, obviously.
Yeah,
like entrenched in like COVID and everything like that. But basically, the main plot is these two girls are on break from college at the start of the pandemic, and they're like, oh, we don't have to finish the semester, let's go live at my parents' lake house. So it's kind of like a home invasion a little bit story where it's like people living in like a remote house, and you just know they're gonna get like stalked and attacked,
right?
But basically that's the setup, and personally I found a lot of the COVID related stuff annoying. Like if they just laid off the repetition of the jokes, it probably would have been more engaging. But the overall like slasher storyline, the way it all works, is pretty like fun. I won't call it like surprising or overly interesting, but it is like pretty fun and worth watching for that reason. The other weird thing, and I haven't seen many of Haim's films, but the camera work's just like insane. Like it's all
really
like a lot of the action is shaky handheld that's super distracting.
Oh,
like
insane bad.
Yeah. It's insane.
It's insane.
Just like lots of shaky, just like hard to realize what's happening kind of action shot in the dark. And it's just like, I mean, some parts are fine. The performances by the two leads are really solid and keep it moving. But overall, like I think I gave it like 3 stars, like very lightest of recommends. If you already like slashers and you're just like wanting a kind of quick movie to watch, it's fine.
Also, what a commitment. The midnight movie at TIFF is like a big ask because you gotta go through public transit after to get back to your Airbnb, and you gotta wake up super early to see something else the next day, and you're super exhausted. Like it sucks that it was not fun.
Yeah.
Well, Reid decided to add a different flex and just go straight to the airport afterwards. So
oh, nice.
I haven't even talked to y'all about that. That was
wait, you went to the airport in the middle of the night after your midnight movie?
Yeah, because my flight was at like 7 a.m.
Oh my god. I mean, that's probably what I would have done too, but geez.
Yeah, the other option would be to go all the way back to the Airbnb, like get maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours of sleep, and then go to the airport.
Not worth it.
My fatal flaw was, one, the train was not running.
No.
So I had to take a cab. And then the other thing was like the airport doesn't. They didn't like actually open to where you could like go sit by the gate, which is what I wanted.
Oh, fuck.
Like
you were stuck before security.
Yeah, it was a long night. I think.
Damn, Reid having a real The Terminal experience.
He was over there like putting the carts away. Yeah, putting the carts away to get Burger King and stuff. Like it was.
It was a real bizarre one. I felt like I was in like a waking nightmare a bit after hours.
Jeez.
But what was next?
we're gonna talk about killing sex. The end of it. No more.
I was getting this title mixed up with the next movie, which is I Like Movies, and my head.
The end of movies. I like sex.
I like sex. Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh
Andrew,
man.
I saw this one. This one's really good. I'll let you start, Andrew. But go ahead.
Sure. So this is a sex comedy about a married couple who's been married a very long time. They are excellent co-parents. The first opening montage is just showing them like getting their kids up and like packed for summer camp and on the school bus and waving them goodbye and crying, and like they're just so attached to their kids that you get the feeling that their kids have become their entire life, right? And as soon as they have a week away from their kids, the question becomes like, what do we do with ourselves? And they genuinely don't have an answer. So they decide, we haven't had sex in a long time. Let's have sex. That would be fun. And then they do not have fun, and they don't understand why they are no longer good at having sex with one another. And so then the rest of the movie is kind of them exploring what it would look like to become better at sex, or to like reignite the spark, or just explore things sexually they've never explored before, figure things out about their own sexual identities, that kind of thing. And it is very funny and really well made. I thought that there was plenty of great visual comedy too. I think that this is the kind of premise that would make kind of a lazily shot Netflix TV show or something. But no, it's a solid movie that I'm really sad is probably not going to get big distribution. There's one kind of star in it, and she's a character in Schitt's Creek. So it'd be cool if like, she was a bankable enough name for this to like have a lot of exposure, because I think people would like it if they saw it. But I'm kind of worried this is going to be one of those tip movies that I enjoy and never see again because it just disappears. What did you think, Reid?
Yeah, no, I have the same fears in that sense, but I really enjoyed this one. Like you said, it's really funny. I like the like structure, like the way it's written. It has like basically day by day, the like 7 days the kids are gone.
Yes.
Have to like figure their shit out, and
it kind of escalates every day. Yeah.
Yeah, something's gonna happen each day. It's gonna be like they're gonna try something different, like whether it's going to like a sex club or like inviting someone to
oh my god and
situation.
The stunt casting that is dropped all of a sudden in the sex club, I will not spoil it in case people get a chance to see this movie, but oh my god, my audience lost their shit when that person was on screen.
It's so good.
Yeah
I mean, it's just like a really sturdy comedy. Like Emily Hampshire's the one from Schitt's Creek, and I thought she was really funny, but also her husband, played by Jonas Chernick, I thought like he just had a really, really good comic timing, especially for like a kind of funny but depressed dad. It seems.
Yeah, he's kind of like doing the neurotic Woody Allen thing a little bit.
Yeah.
But in a more wholesome, less icky way. And
rest in peace.
I guess like if I have one criticism of the movie, it is that like it seems to be escalating to a certain point. Like it seems to be like about to sort of reorient this couple's relationship in a way that would be really fundamental and meaningful, and it doesn't. And I kind of think that it's drawing a line with like 9 dots and asking you to fill in the 10th one. But I kind of wish the movie just had the balls to draw the 10th one. And that is extremely vague. And I know that that will not make sense to people who probably will never get a chance to see this movie. But it is, again, a thing that could play well if it was put in front of people. It reminds me of like a game night or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think like to speak to what you're saying, I think a lot of it feels like it's swinging for the fences in terms of like boundaries pushed and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
the ideas of the movie.
Yeah, the ideas going on, and the comedy as well. But then in the end, it is like it wants to resolve as a typical romantic comedy. And like I even told Andrew after the screening, I was like, man, towards the end, I'm like, there's no way they can wrap this up well.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I landed. Like,
and so the way they do is just kind of like to hand wave it away.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it was good. I would recommend, although
it is good.
Available.
The End of Sex.
Good. Hope I'm wrong.
Speaking of movies that probably won't get American distribution but are good, let's talk about I Like Movies.
Yeah, this movie's real good.
It's great.
This is a Canadian movie, so like hopefully it'll at least get distribution there. The Canadian crowd was enjoying a lot of the in jokes.
Yeah, and this would be one that we talked about it after we saw it, but like this would be good, to drop onto a like Netflix or Hulu or something like that. I think it would play well.
I think it could be a good A24 movie.
Yeah,
I think the A24 teens would eat this movie up.
Oh, absolutely. So I Like Movies. It's directed by Chandler Levack, who is from Toronto. So it was they had a whole it was real hometown kid thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
But the movie follows this just horribly socially inept 17-year-old child named Lawrence, who when you meet Lawrence, he and his best friend, what was his best friend's name?
I forget.
Matt. His best friend Matt. They kind of are a little bit of social outliers. You meet them because they do this. I think it's for a class project. This video about how they hang out. They're the Loners Club, and they like spend Saturday night watching Saturday Night Live. But Matt, you can tell, is kind of pulling away and kind of wants to like have other friends, and
Mm-hmm.
Lawrence pretty much just wants to watch like every movie imaginable and pontificate about it.
He wants to be on Cinematary all the time.
He does, yeah. Yeah, Lawrence would be messaging us going, "Can I be on the podcast?" There's this incredible scene where like it's set in the 90s, and he goes to see Punch Drunk Love.
Oh my god.
And like it's just the most like film bro Punch Drunk Love situation that you've ever run into. It's insane. But he and Matt kind of have this falling out, and so Lawrence gets this job at a video store, and that's where the movie kind of takes off. It's him interacting with the people at the video store, as well as he kind of forms this friendship with the female manager there. But I like this movie a lot. It's incredibly funny.
It's maybe the funniest movie I saw at the festival.
Yeah, it was really good. My favorite line is when Matt goes, Lawrence, you've never tried to masturbate, and Lawrence goes, I tried once, I just didn't like it. I'd rather watch Goodfellas. it's genuinely it's just funny all the way around, but also we were talking about it, like deals with some like pretty heavy topics.
Yeah, in a surprisingly like emotionally hefty movie.
But handles them in a way that's not patronizing or anything. Like it handles it really complexly, and I think makes it a really rich coming of age movie.
Absolutely, yeah. And there are things about cinephilia that really ring true. And things about how obnoxious people who are like deep into cinephilia can be. And like, man, it's also like unique in that it is set in this unique time. I forget what exact year this might be, but it's like the Blockbuster era, when Blockbuster is a big deal. So much of this movie takes place in Blockbuster.
Well, I guess, when did Punch Drunk Love come out?
When did Punch Drunk Love? 2003, I think.
2002. So
2002.
I guess early 2000s.
And like, when I was getting into movies with Jesse, like so much of that experience was mediated through Blockbuster, just like finding movies that they had by big directors that they had. Like, what did you have exposure to, right? But it is also a really searing indictment of like how broy and gatekeepy movie culture can be, and just like how alienating it can be to people who are not in it, right? Like when somebody asks me if I've seen a movie, I'm like, oh no, I like that director. Like, I don't think that's a thing that computes to a lot of people, right? It's just not how most people engage with movies. And so like, there's something very like true and interesting about the way it's depicting like the insider outsider status of cinephilia.
Yeah. Like Lawrence is like weirded out that the manager and a lot of the people at the video store are not like obsessed with movies also.
They want him to sell DVDs of Shrek. and he like cannot lower himself to tell people that they should watch Shrek or buy this DVD of Shrek because they might like it. There's a moment where like his job is to walk around the store and like help people, right? And in that context, your job is to help people find a movie that they would enjoy watching. And there's just this basic couple looking through comedies, and he asked them to watch Todd Solondz's Happiness. And like genuinely doesn't get why his summary does not like spell an awesome evening to them.
He's like, it's like a quirky comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I hope I Like Movies gets a decent distribution, and like people here are like able to watch it, because I think one, it's very much in like that coming of age mold of similar movies like the kind of, in terms of how it's structured, Booksmart or Lady Bird, or it's kind of like those movies, but I think this one like we said, it deals with this kind of emotional heft that I think makes it much more mature than a lot of those movies. And it doesn't like steer away from, there's a lot of times in the movie where you just fucking hate Lawrence because he's an asshole.
Yeah.
Like he's a fucking asshole a lot of the time. And like characters say that to him, and so like it's a movie it also is not like trying to prop up its main character to be like, oh, he's kind of weird, but like he means well.
When I saw the synopsis of it, it was like teenage boy working at Blockbuster, or it's like the Canadian equivalent of Blockbuster, like connects with the older boss at his Blockbuster. I was thinking it was going to be some sort of like, teenage boy losing his virginity kind of movie, but like it is so not that. It is not like the super bad kind of thing. Like it really interrogates this character in a way that I was not expecting.
So I like movies. Hopefully it'll expand a little. But yeah, I think this would be a good, if A24 got it, or if a Netflix or Hulu picked it up. If it ends up popping up somewhere, I would recommend checking it out. We got some time, Andrew. I'll let you talk about blowing up a pipeline.
I saw somebody tweet, how do I review this movie without getting put on an FBI watch list? And I think that is an accurate description of what it feels like to walk out of this movie. This was the best movie that I saw at the festival, or my favorite movie I saw at the festival. It is by Daniel Goldhaber, who made the horror movie Cam several years ago, which I thought was a really underrated horror movie when it came out. It's really one of only a handful from the last like 5 or 6 years that I would say have really stuck with me. But this movie is more ambitious than that, and maybe even more successful than that. It is about exactly what it sounds like. It is about a group of disaffected college students who are like very lefty, like very outspokenly communist, and want to, well, some of them are outspokenly communist. Some of them are just like liberally progressive enough to like want to do something about climate change. But they are realizing that most of the things that they have at their disposal to like fight climate change, most of the organizations and protests and things that are happening are not only ineffectual, but are like unlikely to actually affect change in the future either. Like it just feels like they're spinning their wheels because of like how deeply entrenched we already are in the effects of climate change compared to like the rate of deacceleration. And so they decide to blow up a pipeline. They like create a network of people who like all have a unique set of skills to bring to the table. It's kind of like a Seven Samurai kind of movie. Like we need the bomb guy. We need the electrical guy. We need the person who knows the land well. We need the person who can like drive the car. Like
hell yeah, Ocean's 11.
Yeah,
pipeline blowing up.
It is that like high octane of a thriller about like finding the biggest pipeline in Texas that like sets all the gas prices for the rest of the world and blowing it up and like sending the entire oil industry into free fall, right? And this movie feels like, I said this on Twitter in my review, like if you remember, the trope of like a time bomb counting down from 10, and then like a character having to defuse a time bomb, and they always get it at like 1 second left, right? So that trope is no longer exciting or pulse pounding at all, because you know how that trope's going to end. This movie is like the feeling that maybe used to have when it was new, but the whole movie, it stretches that feeling out for 99 full minutes. I would have to list out every like insane situation and like the ways in which information is kind of withheld and revealed to you, as in the way this movie is structured, to kind of explain how it like sustains that high of a level of tension. But it does. Like, if you can remember the way you may have walked out of Uncut Gems, it is like that, but maybe more. So like, I would actually caution some people against it, because like it's gonna be like maybe too intense of a time. Like Jessie did not like Uncut Gems, because she was like, that movie made me feel so much anxiety so intensely for such a long time. This movie is that, but like about radical leftist political praxis that has very deep implications for the world that we live in. And I loved it. It is extremely well shot, extremely well edited. The cast is great. Daniel Goldhaber, he's got the juice. I want to see more movies from him.
And this one does not have the problem with the other two we just talked about, and it was picked up by Neon at the festival.
Oh yeah, this movie's gonna play really well, I think. Though it might be controversial when it comes out. I don't know, because of how politically radical it is.
Ooh, controversial at the movies. Never heard of it. It'll probably be tame in comparison to Don't Worry, Darling and Blonde. So I think it'll be
fine. I mean, yeah, it'll be controversial in a different way. Yeah, it won't have like weird culture war drama around it, but it is a movie that is unequivocally, unashamedly pro blowing up a pipeline.
Yeah, well, yeah. In a way, so is There Will Be Blood. So
true.
All right. Any before we head into part 2, any thoughts on TIFF this year? Reid, this was your first one, but I don't know. I thought it was a good. It was nice to like be all back in place and doing things normally.
Yeah, it was super fun. Really enjoyed it. I wish I could have stayed longer and seen more, but maybe next time.
Yeah.
It was the best TIFF festival I've been to, but that was partially because I had a press pass and could see the movies I wanted to see much more conveniently. I feel for you, Reid, because just having the public pass, you're kind of restricted to what is playing at the times that you're free.
Yeah.
And the press has so many more options. But it was also just a great crop of movies. I wonder if like this is the year that a lot of stuff got pushed back because of how long COVID kind of like slowed the movies down.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're gonna take a quick break, and then we're gonna be back in our big suits talking Stop Making Sense after this.
Yeah. All right, I will be right back, y'all.
I'm gonna boot Reid out of here.
Yeah.
Says I can kick from studio.
I hate the talking heads.
I'm gonna kick you from the. I'm gonna kick you. I want to see what happens when you get kicked from the studio.
Okay.
So I'm gonna. You got all your stuff though. Are you good?
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you properly say goodbye, and then I'm gonna kick you from the studio.
No, that's good. Only thing I want to say, I got accredited for the Brooklyn Horror Film Festival, so in October,
cool.
Come on and chat about it at some point.
Yeah. You should come back at the end of the month for Wendell and Wild, and then we can talk about it.
Yeah. What other movies are in the kids horror?
We're still figuring it out. We were talking about that today. So
I suggest Poltergeist.
Is that a kids movie?
I mean, I watched it as a kid. It's about kids. I don't know. It's like it's not like Wendell and Wild, but I don't know.
Okay. I'll toss it out there as an option.
Okay.
All right.
We'll catch y'all later.
I'm gonna kick you now.
Bye.
Kick. Yeah. It was a little anticlimactic. He just kind of left. Let's look at Andrew's art. Can we no, I don't want to be big. Let's see if I can get closer. Yeah, what is that? That's a cat. It's a little house thing, little birdhouse thing. I don't know, folks.
Did you tell me what you're doing tomorrow?
No.
Cassie's show.
I'm just gonna mute him because he seems like he's having a whole conversation there. Seems like he's having a whole conversation. What's this? Oh, it's only in solo. Oh, that's fun. So let me see. Oh, it doesn't do anything. JK. Seems like he's having a whole conversation. Whole conversation. Oh. Just give us all a big yawn. I kicked Reid out.
Damn, booted from the podcast.
Yeah, I wanted to see what it would do, and it was kind of boring. Oh, by the way, you should watch. The movie itself isn't great. Like, the plot is stupid.
Mm-hmm.
You should watch The Bad Guys, the animated movie.
Should I?
The animation is nuts. It has like, it's kind of like DreamWorks was like, yo, let's make a Lupin movie. And so, and there's like parts of it, like a lot of it is like dumb plot stuff, but there's like, especially the first like opening scene, but then there's like 2 or 3 other scenes where it's just like a Lupin movie, and it's fucking awesome.
Okay.
Like there's people flying out of the cars and shit. Like, it's crazy.
I don't know when I'll get a chance to watch it, but that sounds interesting.
No, if you're just like, I got nothing, I'm gonna watch something.
I've kind of passed on a lot of the big animated movies that like people have said are impressively looking, but are not interesting plot wise, like that Mitchell's versus the Machines movie.
Yeah. No, this one, I mean, it's good. It's very boring because it's a very stupid plot, but honestly, it's worth it just for the opening sequence, because the opening sequence is literally like a Lupin movie, and I was just like, oh shit. But I watched it the other night, and I was like, okay.
Is it on streaming, or you went to the theaters?
No, it's on Peacock.
It's
on Peacock exclusively on Peacock. But Mo''Malley's a fan too.
Sweet.
And it's like the, you know, if you don't want to like give your attention to Zootopia, it's another movie for like the furries to like enjoy.
Man,
without
Plus. Can't you wait for Zootopia Plus?
Is that are you pulling my leg, or is that a real?
No,
thing?
I think that's really what it's called. Let me see.
Zootopia 2. Zootopia 2. Nick and Judy's get married.
Oh, it's a TV series.
Okay. Zootopia Plus. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, you know.
Judy Hopps is in it, but Jason Bateman's character is not.
They killed him. They just straight murdered him. They murdered my boy. All right. Let's stop.
Did Reid not watch Stop Making Sense?
No, he's just doing part 1.
Oh damn! I didn't realize. Okay.
No, that's what I was telling him. I was really disappointed because I wish we had like 5 people here, and then like we start the podcast. It's just me, and then gradually add people.
That would be great.
You know, like I'm just like reading the notes, and then it's just like, and then stop the bomb. And then,
Andrew,
like,
what do you think?
Yeah. And then like you give your thoughts, and then I go, oh, what do you think? You know, just keep adding. Like it would be great. But
incredible.
People couldn't get on board with that, you know, highfalutin of an idea. It's too.
You're not ready for that
we're
yet.
ahead. Yeah, I'm ahead of my time. Oh shit! I forgot to talk to Reid about Ambulance.
Show us an Ambulance.
It's also on Peacock. Peacock's the best streaming service because it has Ambulance. And Downton Abbey and Bad Guy as a strange collection of like exclusive streaming movies.
Is this the streaming service that opened so that they could have The Office?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
It's the NBC streaming service. They got The Office, Parks and Rec. They have like The Office broken up into like super fan episodes where they're longer.
Oh wow.
And they literally have like playlists of episodes.
People do make The Office into a whole personality.
Yeah, I mean that's everybody on Tinder, so.
Yep.
And that's our stance, YouTube. So deal with that. All right, let's talk about some heads.
Let's talk about them.
Let's talk about some heads. Oh, all right. Here we go.
They're not going to talk about themselves.
No.
They're not talking heads.
Let's not burn this joke out. Let's keep it going. Okay. I'm just going to start now.
Man, cool babies.
Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. And we're back with part 2 of episode 422 of Cinematary. In this part, we're going to be talking about 1984 Stop Making Sense as part of our concert movie series. We've ditched Reid because he vehemently hates the Talking Heads.
Yeah,
and
it's his least favorite concert film. He has terrible taste.
I said we're about to talk about Stop Making Sense, and he projectile vomited on the screen. It was crazy.
We're doing the opposite of Stop Making Sense. We're losing a person every so often in the episode. I will be cut halfway through part 2, and it will just be Zach.
It'll just be me like, oh, yeah, I mean, the music. The music. This is directed by Jonathan Demme, and it was conceived by Demme and the Talking Heads. Stop Making Sense was filmed during 3 live concerts, December 14th through 16th, 1983, at the Pantages Theater in Hollywood. A December 21st, 1983 LA Times article reported that the band performed for 4 nights, but information and production notes indicates that the first performance on December 13th was a practice run for the film shoot. They also noted that the project's working title was Electric Guitar. Director Jonathan Demme and director of photography Jordan Cronenweth employed 6 stationary cameras plus a handheld and a Panaglide for close-ups on stage. Production notes state that Stop Making Sense was the first film to use, quote, direct-to-film digital recording technology.
What does that mean?
I think it goes direct to movie.
Direct to the movie.
Direct to film digital recording technology.
The camera takes in the images and then it spits out a movie.
Yes. Demme Demme has stated that one night of shooting was dedicated almost entirely to wide shots from a distance to minimize the intrusion of cameras on stage. Demme had considered additional shooting on a soundstage made to recreate the theater, but the band declined to do this as they thought the lack of audience response would have hindered the energy of their performance. Before the shooting of the movie, David Byrne implored the band to wear neutral colored clothing so the stage lights would not illuminate anything too distinctive. However, drummer Chris France can still be seen wearing a turquoise colored polo shirt.
Didn't he insist on wearing the blue shirt?
I believe so.
I feel like he did.
Demme also considered including more shots of the audience reacting to the performance, as is traditional in concert films. However, he discovered that filming the audience required additional lighting, which inhibited the audience's energy. This in turn made the band feel insecure and thus led to, quote, the worst Talking Heads performance in the history of the band's career.
Oh, God.
The only direct audience shots in the film occur at the very end during Cross-Eyed and Painless. Demme, on making the film in an interview with Time in 2014, quote, I adore film and I adore music. I often find myself feeling that filming music is somehow the purest form of filmmaking. This crazed collision of sound and images, the intense collaboration, these incredibly cinematic performances, and for the nights you're filming, a non-player like me gets to feel somehow part of the band. In the same interview, David Byrne said on the movie, quote, I think the film and the show showed that a pop concert could be a kind of theater. Not in the pretentious sense, but in the sense that it could be visually and even sort of dramatically sophisticated, and yet you could still dance to it. In 1984, the New York Times said, from the opening frames of Jonathan Demme's Stop Making Sense, it's apparent that this is a rock concert that looks and sounds like no other. The sound is extraordinarily clear thanks to the pioneering use of 24-track digital recording, and the film's visual style is a coolly iconoclastic as Talking Heads itself. Mr. Demme has captured both the look and the spirit of this live performance with a daring and precision that match the group's own. And in 1984, Roger Ebert said, there are a lot of reasons to see concert films, but the only ones that usually get mentioned are the music and the cinematography. This time, the actual physical impact of the film is just as exhilarating. Watching the Talking Heads in concert is a little like rock and roll crossed with Jane Fonda's workout. Which is what a description there, Raj.
That's what a life during wartime is. It's an exercise routine.
But yeah, Stop Making Sense. We have both seen this, and I think our, this train left the station, and we're like on top of it, waving flags. So
yeah,
that's the kind of conversation you're about to get.
Have I told you about my greatest experience seeing Stop Making Sense? I've seen it several times.
Maybe, but let's.
But the best time that I saw it was at Big Ears. Friend of the show, Darren Hughes, had put together this whole film program around Jonathan Demme, and Jonathan Demme was supposedly going to come to the festival that year. Mm-hmm. And I believe that he did not come to the festival that year because he was getting sick, and he later died like the next year, I think. But they did a double feature in the Tennessee Theater of first Justin Timberlake and the Tennessee Kids, and then Stop Making Sense. In fantastic time, such a great time, in such an awesome theater. But yeah, I've seen this movie several times. I watched it in college when I was just kind of getting into the Talking Heads, which I feel like is a rite of passage experience for a lot of white dudes of a certain age.
Are you into art and are you in college? And are you a white dude?
Are you a white man, liberal arts major who likes weird music sometimes? You should get into the Talking Heads. But like for real though, because it's just so good. This is, I think, pretty much the consensus pick among most people is like the best concert movie. And I think that is correct. I think that it is almost inarguable that this is not the best concert movie. I think that the one we're doing next week does give it a run for its money, but I still think this has not been topped. Like on so many levels, as like a piece of theater, as a piece of music, as a piece of cinema, it is kind of firing on all of those levels. And it is also like, the music is incredible. This is Talking Heads kind of at their peak after they've got several like edgy art rock records behind them, and like now they're like hitting this big commercial success by like embracing funk and disco and pop sounds, and like making this really pleasurable, accessible, fun sound. And Jonathan Demme just shoots the shit out of it, and like every shot feels like it has a particular image that it's focusing on, a particular like shape that it's making. Every song feels like it has some sort of new visual idea to it, whether that be like What a Day That Was, like lighting the band from below, or Once in a Lifetime being this one unbroken shot on David Byrne for 90% of it. I could just list like what is the visual gimmick of every single song, but they all got one, and they're all like new and fun and interesting and dynamic.
I forgot which song it was, but the one that I noticed this time was they have the front light on the band, and like you have the silhouettes of them playing in the different little kind of almost boxes in the back, like on the back of the wall.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And it reminds you a little bit of like Jailhouse Rock.
A little bit. Yeah. I forget what title that is too, but yeah, there's so many great just little visual designs that they create with the camera and the stage in this movie.
Well, it's such a fascinating experience also, because I mean, we were joking about it off mic, but like you know, the movie starts with it's just David Byrne and a guitar singing Psycho Killer, and then they gradually add different band members and different instruments and things like that to the point where I think it's like the last hour is everybody's finally there.
And then it's a party. Like once everybody's there, it's such a party.
Yeah, it goes nuts. Like it's still incredibly well directed for like the lead up to it. But then when everybody's there and they like pull down like a back sheet and everything, it goes crazy. The lighting is crazy. The performance is crazy. Like it becomes just this experience for the next 60 minutes.
And like I think that doing that structure makes for a very interesting sonic experience too. It's kind of inviting the audience, or forcing the audience really, to notice what each individual band member is adding to the sound. It is kind of a celebration of what makes bands unique specifically in the world of music, as opposed to like, you know, solo performers or like orchestras or something where like everybody is performing this thing exactly as it is written, where a band has like this collaborative push and pull to it, where like everybody's energy is like bringing everybody else's energy up. And like everybody's kind of adding to this like sonic stew that we're creating. Like, because you notice like, oh, that's what the bass is bringing to Talking Heads. I'm going to notice that in every song going forward. That's what the drums are adding to Talking Heads. I'm going to notice that in every song moving forward. And then it just like all comes together for such a long time. You get to enjoy like the fusion, the musical fusion the Talking Heads create. And David Byrne is just like an incredible stage presence. Oh my God.
Oh yeah. I mean, it just at one point he just starts sprinting around the stage.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you're just like, yeah.
He's like aggressively uncool to the point that it is cool, right? Like,
yeah,
David Byrne and all these guys came up in like the punk scene at CBGB, and like this is a very different kind of music than punk, but it kind of has a sort of like who gives a fuck punk ethos, where like David Byrne is willing to do fucking anything on stage, like as long as it makes him happy and seems like it's a good idea. Like he's just gonna do it. Like, conventions be damned. There's almost nothing about the way the band performs that, you know, looks or feels like a typical concert doc.
Yeah, I mean, the iconic image is him when he comes out in the big suit, which is just great because he's just sitting there in this little big suit, just dancing around with it on.
Yeah.
But I mean, you even have like the sequence where he's like waving around. He's like doing.
Oh my God! Yeah.
You know, and he's just like, and Demme does it like in a medium shot and just kind of lets, so you see just like his full body just kind of worming around. But yeah, it just has the way that they film it. Also, it captures like everybody's personalities. Like there's just such this personality to it that I think also, I kind of transitioning into comparing it to the other two movies that we've talked about in the series, like this one is definitely, I talked about it a little bit last week, is like breaking from that mold of like, this is kind of what a concert film's supposed to be like. But I think this one's interesting because it's much more invested in like designing a performance for a movie rather than the previous two, which are kind of going, the performance is happening in the movie, needs to come to it.
The movie is finding a way to capture the performance interestingly, as opposed to those things being kind of, it seems like they were written in tandem. Like I feel like these camera angles were probably planned when the band was deciding how they were going to position themselves on stage and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's so intricately designed by David Byrne and Jonathan Demme that you lose a little bit of like that spontaneity that you get in Monterey Pop or that you get in Jazz on a Summer's Day, but you make up for it with just like, I don't know. I like the very like manicured experience of like those like David Byrne and Jonathan Demme are going like, I want you to experience it in this specific way.
That almost makes it sound like rigid and unfun or something, but like there's so much enthusiasm just like pouring out of the screen because like there are all these moments where you can tell the band is just having such a good time doing what they're doing. Like there's a moment in Burning Down the House where like I think David Byrne kind of like breaks character, so to speak. It's just like grinning from ear to ear, like he's just enjoying the act of making music with these people so much that is infectious.
And I think honestly, it's it isn't rigid because you like how it's going. All right, so this is the music. This is kind of how the music moves. How like let's design the cameras to work in tandem with that. And it's just we're gonna get the same thing very much so next week where Beyonce, whether it's Lemonade, whether it's Homecoming, what have you. She's very much designing the look to go with the music itself.
Yeah, she's a visual artist, just like David Byrne is.
And so, like, there is something about that, and I think this one is this movie is that's what makes it such a turning point when it comes to concert films because I don't think the musician didn't have an active role. Louis Armstrong's just performing, or Jimi Hendrix is just performing. The camera is just kind of there secondary, and it's really, this kind of shows how much of an experience it can be if you have the camera and artists like working in tandem.
It feels almost like a statement about that, like that this is what a concert film can be, as opposed to trying to be a standard concert film, right? Like there's a special feature on the DVD. I don't know where this originally was intended to live, but like it's a interview between David Byrne and himself. He's like doing this split screen thing, interviewing himself as like with the upper interview persona. And he asks himself when the Talking Heads are going to tour again. And he said, we'll tour again when we have something new to say to an audience. And I feel like this movie is like saying something to an audience by doing a concert in such a different kind of manner and doing a concert film in such a different kind of manner. I think David Byrne tried to do that again with American Utopia, and it is a new kind of way of doing a concert, but I don't think it hits the highs that this does.
No, I'm sure it has a much more better effect on like Broadway than it just does. Again, it's just something that's not designed for a movie. No, it's interesting, going through the notes, seeing that, Jonathan Demme initially wanted to include an audience. And that's something that's very important to the two movies we've talked about so far in the series, is like including that kind of audience to go along with the performers. But this one very much goes that, the audience is more the viewer watching the film.
You are the audience.
Yeah. So what's so incredible about it is that they are playing to an audience because there are people there, but because you're never really engaging with those people in the crowd, it's very much just it very much feels like it's a concert in your house to a degree.
Yeah. If you are watching this at home, it does feel like David Byrne and the Talking Heads are putting on a concert specifically for you, and that you get like the best angle of everything you want to see at that concert. You're not standing behind somebody's head. Like you get to be up there with them. It feels like it's almost inviting you to participate a little bit. There's a moment where David Byrne in, I think, Take Me to the River, they're doing like a call and response thing. And he hands the microphone he puts the microphone in front of the lighting guy who's like walking around, like lighting the band. And then he turns and puts the microphone in the face of the camera. So like asking us to like be part of the call and response, which seems like a literalization of the kind of like relationship that is kind of built between the band and the audience in the movie. And like by the time the movie does show you the audience at the end in Cross-Eyed and Painless, it's like inviting you to feel like you are part of this like communal experience with like lots of people enjoying this music all over the world. Right. It's really beautiful. And I've heard that theatrical screenings of this, a lot of times the audience gets up and dances for a lot of it. And I've only seen it in a theater once, and people did not do that, but I would love to do that. Like the last couple times I've watched this, I watched it in my house, and I kind of can't watch this movie sitting down. I'm just kind of like walking around my house, walking around the living room, doing whatever I want to do, so I can just kind of like move my body along with the music. And there's something about Talking Heads music that kind of like pulls that out of me, despite the fact that I'm not really a guy who dances in like my personal life a whole lot, right? Like I'm kind of a David Byrne sort of like gangly, socially awkward dude in that regard. But yeah, like there's something about this music and like the kind of like who gives a fuck energy that the band exudes in this, that like I kind of can't deny. I can't like keep myself from wanting to be a part of.
The movie is also kind of interesting because I think it's not just a important movie for like music concert films, but also for you look at like comedy specials now, and comedy specials I think also definitely are trying to expand out. I mean, I think like Bo Burnham's Inside's kind of a different
I was gonna bring up Inside. I feel like it is kind of doing a similar thing to Stop Making Sense with the comedy special form. Not that it's like to this level, but
I mean, with like a comedy special, if you're watching just like a kind of a basic comedy special, there is like this rhythm to it, and you can tell some are better than others. There is this kind of rhythm to it with how the camera cuts. You'll have some comedians who like kind of want to play around with camera placement and things like that, but for the most part it's kind of very
it's meant to be invisible. You're not supposed to notice what the camera's doing.
No, but you get kind of like medium shot, close up, side shot, audience reaction, like it usually kind of goes through. But I think that's also kind of coming from, I think that the comedy special and how that's shot is coming out of this series that we're talking about, out of the kind of concert movies of just kind of trying to capture like a live event.
Absolutely.
But I would agree that like Bo Burnham's trying to do something very different because he's somebody who's also shot comedy specials, like regular comedy specials.
I haven't seen his like standard comedy specials. Like he did the what's the Carmichael guy? I forget that guy's name.
Gerard Carmichael. I want to say he did one of Mike Birbiglia's. He did Kate Berlant's. Her.
Do those do anything interesting with like the visual language of it in the way that Inside or Stop Making Sense does?
Not really. I mean, that's why I say like he clearly knows how to do like a basic comedy special.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way in which they're similar, even though they're totally different mediums, right, is that a lot of times in Inside, where the camera is part of the joke, or like how the the shot is being lit or something as part of the joke. Whereas I think in this, and Stop Making Sense, like where the camera is and what we're deciding to look at and what we're deciding to black out is part of the musical experience, right? Like in Once in a Lifetime, when you get this like 90% of it is just an unbroken static shot on David Byrne as he's like preaching to a church, basically. Like he's embodying that like really high energy like Baptist preacher persona. And then like it's at the end of the song when like the bottom kind of lets bottom kind of comes out of the like the sonic palette of it, and like there's lots and lots of instrumentation that gets added. Then like the camera goes wide and you see like all these people like resurrecting behind him, right? Like if we could see those people just hanging out, you know, intermittently during the first part of that song, it would not have the effect that it does. The like seeing the way that the information is kind of like doled out to you as a viewer of a movie.
Yeah, and it just has, I don't know. I mean, it kind of just goes back to like it's trying to do something cinematically. It's trying to kind of communicate in that way, and that's not. I don't think that there's like a good or bad way necessarily. Like there is good aspects of like Jazz on a Summer's Day or Monterey Pop, where like the spontaneity and like the ability to like capture that moment in the moment, and like you wouldn't be able to restage it or anything. Is fascinating. Like there is just kind of that basic documentary element of it, because this one, you know, like those two felt like documentaries. This doesn't feel like a documentary. Like this one is very, you know, they're very much like putting on a show here. And so I think that it's kind of fascinating that we have like the two that are very traditional concert film compared to two that are very much more storyboarded out. Because I think that those are, it's kind of fascinating to think about where outside of Beyonce, where the concert movie has kind of gone, because there was this string of ones when you had like Katy Perry had one and Justin Bieber had one, and you kind of like had this string of concert movies that were, I felt like, less about like trying to do something interesting and more about going, this is a big star who people like, we should film it.
There was also these big prestige movies, like, wasn't there a Rolling Stones one by Martin Scorsese? And like there was the U2 like 360 degree experience thing. And I feel like for the most part, like those things are few and far between. And even those things, like, I don't know how interested I actually am in watching them. I feel like maybe I shouldn't pass judgment having not watched them, but I feel like most concert films either are kind of disposable or like I feel like they're going to be kind of disposable just because of like where the genre is at. So I really wish that there were filmmakers on Jonathan Demme's level who were making concert films of contemporary artists in the way that you know, this came together in the 80s.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer. You know, the Justin Bieber one I know was directed by John M. Chu, who you would think would be somebody, at least with his background, that could do something kind of interesting. But I've never watched it. It could be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But it's Justin Bieber, so.
It's Justin Bieber in like the teeny bopper era, too.
Yeah, so it's not. It's just kind of a very, you know.
Like I enjoy the two most recent Taylor Swift music video or concert films that came out, the Reputation one and the like studio sessions for Folklore, but neither of them, like they're fun if you just like that music and want to see it done live, but like didn't go to the concert, you know. This is its whole experience.
Also, I was gonna ask, like, are those concert movies or are they more like kind of extended music video, like live performances?
Reputation is a concert movie, like one show from beginning to end, I'm pretty sure. But the Folklore thing is definitely like almost this PR package of like, this is the cottagecore aesthetic of this album cycle that we are selling.
That was on Disney Plus though, right?
It wasn't Disney Plus, yeah.
Yeah.
So which like they kind of don't ever put out anything that doesn't feel like it's just an extended commercial for itself.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, I like that stuff because I like that music and I like her as an artist. But I don't think artists as big as Talking Heads and filmmakers as thoughtful as Jonathan Demme are like pairing up to make big movies like this right now, and that is a bummer.
Yeah, it was an interesting choice for David Byrne to partner with Spike Lee for American Utopia. Because Spike Lee, outside of like what you people know about Spike Lee, he also is a very fascinating. He does work, whether it's commercials or documentary film or music videos. Like he does have
He's always working.
And he has a fascinating resume that would endear itself to a concert film. I just don't think that like the show and him were necessarily compatible. Like I would like to see him maybe go more like be more of the engineer of the product and do something else.
Yeah, there's like a moment in American Utopia where it becomes a Spike Lee movie, and then it goes back to being Spike Lee giving David Byrne the movie that David Byrne wants to make, you know? And it doesn't feel like there's that fusion between the two artists, the two different mediums that there is here.
Yeah, because Spike Lee's such a fascinating. Whenever he's done music videos and whenever he's done commercials, it does just have that Spike Lee personality that I'm like, yeah, like a concert film with somebody that like Spike Lee could like genuinely collaborate with would be fascinating. I'm trying to.
And I wish there was it's such a bummer to me that the Daft Punk tour Alive 2007 did not get a concert film for it, because that concert album is, I would say, like the stop making sense of concert albums to me. And it's like this legendary thing that, you know, happened one time. They never tour, and there's just like not pro shot footage of it. That would have been a perfect, like, you know, a movie that could be on the level of this one if they shot it right.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's I have to agree that this is probably the best concert movie, just because I think the spontaneity and like the just kind of feeling put into a place with the first two movies that we talked about that are more documentary feel is special, and kind of being dropped into that, just kind of airdropped into there and like experiencing that for a few hours and then being pulled back out is fascinating. But like with Stop Making Sense, not only is it just kind of this very storyboarded, manicured experience that it's doing stuff to garner your attention, but like we've talked about, it also like you feel like you're legitimately at a concert. And I feel like that's kind of, at the end of the day, that's what the concert movie is supposed to kind of do, is you're supposed to feel like you're at a concert. You know, that's Grace and I talked about that last week with Monterey Pop, where there was a couple scenes, but overall you don't really feel like you have a front row seat or just sitting there experiencing, you know, Janis Joplin playing or something like that.
Yeah, and a lot of time I feel like I'm just on YouTube watching somebody's, you know, somewhat pro shot footage of a concert.
Yeah, and this one, you know, you feel very much. I mean, like while I was watching it yesterday, like I'm kind of the same way. You know, I'm almost gonna like get up and start dancing or engaging with it, because you don't feel like you're watching. It's not really like a sit down and like, let's sit down and
yeah, because like my body is instinctually kind of moving and like my feet are tapping and stuff while I'm sitting down anyway, and then like sitting feels like an impediment to like the experience I want to have with this movie.
Yeah, it feels like the wrong way to go about it. It's a little strange that for the Big Ears thing, everybody just sat there and watched it like nerds.
Yeah. There's a Talking Heads cover band in Tennessee. I think there might be from Murfreesboro or something. Maybe they're from Knoxville. I don't know. Called Same As It Ever Was. It would be cool if somebody sent them this podcast to listen to it. I don't know. But they are like the best cover band I have ever heard. They sound almost identical to the Talking Heads, but they, more importantly to like matching the sound perfectly, they match the energy of it. And like, again, I'm not a person who dances a lot at concerts, but like I dance at Same As It Ever Was concerts because like that, you can't help but do that. So, and like this movie is just like the perfect encapsulation of that feeling, I think.
Yeah, no, it's we're never gonna get to go to a Talking Heads concert, but you have Stop Making Sense, which
We'll
I think
always
is-
have Stop Making Sense.
Exactly. All right, I believe that'll wrap up this episode of Cinematary. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Cinematary, on Letterboxd at Letterboxd, or Twitter and Instagram at Cinematary, and on Letterboxd at letterboxd.com/Cinematary, where you can see all the movies that we talked about in this episode, keep up with some of the TIFF offerings that we had in part 1. If you'd like to support the show, head over to patreon.com/Cinematary, whether it's $1, $5, whatever you'd like to give. We appreciate it if you'd like to support the show. Thank you to our patrons: Cam, Chad Newsom, Corey Willingham, Candace Sisson, Ron Hayes, Teresa Marthathi, Titus Arthur, and Tyler Chandler. Thank you so much for your patronage. Next week, we mentioned it before, but we're going to wrap this thing up with Beyonce's Homecoming,
which also just rules. It's so good.
Super good movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, that from 2019. I wish, quite honestly, she could. Maybe I'm sure she's planning something with the new album. But I wish
could
she
make a great concert film if she did it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping for a good concert film out of it, because like the Lion King one was just
yikes.
It's
yeah.
Again, it came out on Disney Plus is all we gotta say. So it should be a good one. But until then, thank you all for listening. We'll see you next week.
Bye.